So I do want to recognize that we have several distinguished guests on our network on our Zoom call. I would like to first recognize our board members, Deborah Chavez, John DeFay. Like to also recognize Leslie Yardman of our board, the FMA board, and I'd like to also recognize our IT guy, always the most important guy in this group for sure to us. Roy Evans is online as well. We're going to give ourselves a few more minutes. I also see Larry Politan, who's joined on. I believe, Larry, if you can hear me, Larry, you can jump on in. But Larry, technically you're with PSFA, correct? Am I correct when I say that?
Yeah, good morning, Pat. We're with the Public School Facilities Authority. Yes, sir.
There you go. So PSFA, Larry Tollison joined. Thank you for joining. I also see Christy Griner online. Thank you, Christy, for joining.
You're welcome. It's fun to be here.
Thank you for joining us. I'm not going to try to butcher this last name, so I'm going to go S. Berger. Okay, Schoenberger, is that how you say it? Who is that? S. Schoenberger. Can you hear me? Very good. Did I say that right? Okay. I also see our board member Lori Gunner has joined. Dave Jensen has joined. Also, our executive director for FMA, Carol Lee Griffin, has joined as well. So I would like to take the time to recognize our board members. Guys, we're going to give ourselves a few more minutes before we get started. I also see Brent Smots. I also see G. Wilkinson. Thanks for joining. If you could look at your screen, John has already shared his screen. And so you can see that up. We'll give ourselves a few more minutes. It's 8:31 now. We'll start in about another minute. And we'll hear a presentation today given to us by John DeFay, Executive Director of the Maintenance and Operations for APS. He'll go through and share his presentation with the reopening of schools. I had the pleasure of working with John intimately while I was serving as the Director of M&O at Rio Rancho School District as well. And John has been all over the country sharing his message that and what we're doing here at the local as well as regional level with our schools. And so John can get into a lot of specifics, I'm sure, but some of our newest technology with our KPIs and understanding what's happening with our school index in terms of maintenance and operations. John is seen as a national figure within the state of New Mexico. So very honored to have him do the presentation. Very honored to have him sit on our board as well. And so we'll go ahead and get started, John. My name is Pat Dyer. I am the president of FMA. John DeFay is our vice president of FMA. We have several board members and distinguished guests on the line. I believe I've seen Chris. I think Chris I thought I'd seen Chris join us as well. Chris Sadler, are you there? How you doing, Chris? We can see you wave. Thank you for joining. We also have Larry Tollison from PSFA has joined as well. We'd like to thank you guys for joining. John is going to kind of just do an overview on APS on our APS reopening the schools. I would like to ask all guests if they can put their phones on mute. If you have questions, there's a chat line feature on the Zoom. You could actually chime in and ask a question through the chat. The presentation is being recorded. And if you have any questions or concerns about email, I'll share John's email throughout the chat so you can email him directly. But we ask that everybody put their phones on mute. That way we don't have any noises bleeding into the presentation. So at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to John DeFay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for logging on and attending this presentation. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes within Albuquerque Public Schools, as well as every organization that is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, as well as the nation. This is not something that is done in a vacuum. It's being done all across the United States, trying to figure out how to do this and how to open schools. I think one of the things that we're finding out across the country is how important schools are during this COVID period, how important schools really are, how it draws the economy and how it guides our lives. Without schools, we're finding out that life is different. Life is very different. And what's happening. One of the things that really been interesting is, as we've been going through this, people have been talking a lot about, well, we need we'll just put the kids in daycare or some kind of before or after school or during school programs if we don't open schools and those type of things. What we're finding out is people talk about K-5, kindergarten through fifth grade or even eighth grade before they get to high school. There is no such thing as daycare for K-5. If you think about it, daycare is strictly, and what people take care of their kids is done at from being a baby to 4 years old. At that time, then they go to kindergarten. So daycare for K-5 is called school. And without school, there's some really hard economic issues going on right now. And we're trying to figure out how to do that and how to get kids back in school. But it's got to be done safely and it's got to be done the right way. Unfortunately, there are no best practices for doing this type of thing. We're finding this out that we've never been in this situation, and we're now trying to create these the best practices. And what works for us may not work for other organizations or other schools, whether it's in New Mexico or not. And one of the things that we're finding out is that we really need to do this with partnerships. Schools can't do this. We need to work very closely with PED, the Public Education Department. We need to be working with, once we determine what a plan is, we're going to be needing to work with PSFA, with Larry and his group, as we function and do our tasks trying to open schools or even continue working with keeping schools open. We have to work with PSFA and they're a partner in what we do. And I definitely want to thank Larry and his group and all his people as PED. It has to be done together. And Larry's group, PSFA, is a very integral school districts across the state of New Mexico. So there is no magic bullet. There's no right way or wrong way to do this. The whole thing is all the different considerations in opening up a school. And this is what we're going to talk about. We're not even going to talk about the academic side, because that is a whole nother world. And the challenges that we have, and we'll talk about some of those challenges because of the conduct across the state, across the city, and in different parts of the county as well. But the health and safety of all students and staff is top priority if we're going to look at reopening schools, if we can reopen schools, and then how we're going to do it with the rules of social distancing. And we need to keep everybody safe, parents as well as the children. And once you determine what that is, we're going to have to be training the staff, the students, as well as parents, how to do this, how to get kids into school, what they're going to have to do. The idea of wearing masks every day in school, and teachers, and trying to keep the safety of these kids is top priority, and it's a monumental task if it's possible. So everybody can see the screen, Pat? Okay. One of the things that we have to look at first and foremost too is transportation, bus drop-off. We've been looking at how we're doing how you're going to do bus pickup if we do the social distancing. You have a 77 passenger bus. If we do social distancing, the most we can put on that bus is 15 kids. Under the rules that the governor has come up with and in CDC of being able to put a couple kids closer, as well as if your brother or a sibling is with you, you can sit in the same seat. We're able to push it up a little bit to about 42 kids per bus. But when you're looking at buses to get kids on time, you can't go back and pick up kids. We and APS are on a 4-tier system. So when you think about that, there's 4 routes in the morning, 4 routes in the afternoon to pick up and drop off kids, with about 10 minutes in there for traffic and any delays that may be there. We run about 487 buses a day, and that's total of 8 trips a day, 8 routes each bus does per day, 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. So we go every day on a regular schedule. APS goes to the moon and halfway back every day with all of our buses. So when we're adding more bus routes or trying to figure out where we can pick up kids, it's very difficult. There's how do we get kids on the bus? Are they social distancing when they're at the bus drop-off, at their bus stop? When we pick them up, what happens? We have to check those kids to see. The bus driver has to check their temperature. And that's a lot of controversy there. Does temperature really matter that much in testing? Because 70% of people who have COVID don't show symptoms of a temperature. But if you're outside and they're out there in the sun waiting for the bus, they're going to get hot. And so there's a lot of health professionals are saying it's something that shouldn't be done, but then you have CDC that says it should. And this is all new for everybody. They're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But if a child shows a symptom of a fever at the bus stop and the bus driver checks his temperature, the problem we have is we can't let that student on the bus. And I'm not sure how many of you are going to want us to leave your child at the bus stop, because that's what will happen. That's one of the problems. So what happens is that we have to call our school police. Our school police will be dispatched to that bus stop to call the parent and get the parents there to pick up the child, and they'll wait there. But then now we have police doing the bus stops issues. And the bus drivers are not doctors, are not healthcare professionals. They can't judge if the person's been out or not in the sun. So they've been told if the child has temperature, let them on the bus, no matter what it says. And that'll be with a thermal infrared reader. So how well they work, I don't know. But there again, now we are leaving children at the bus stop possibly. And that's something we don't want to do either. That's something that's still trying to figure how that's going to work. And then how many kids are going to be on the bus? Again, we have a limit of what can be on the bus. Campus security and access. We're already doing a lot of access security. All schools are across the country because of the active shooter things and all that stuff. So we're having a lot of thoughts on how to get that, because we have to funnel everybody that goes through the school, whether it's a child or whether it's a parent, checking them in to the school. Can they go in? So now you'll have a line of people trying to get in as we check their temperatures or to check to see if they show any symptoms. The same thing goes with teachers. The teachers have to be, that is in the rules, that a teacher must check their temperature and they must fill out a questionnaire every single day of what their health is like every day before they can walk in the building. So they can do that before they arrive, or they can do that at the time they arrive. But everything will have to be filled out before they can walk through the halls of the school. So you can see if you're a high school that has 150 to 200 employees, how you're going to have a little bit of a wait to get into the building if you don't have all that. And then you'll have to verify your temperatures. So then we go into classroom guidelines. Classroom guidelines are going to be social distancing, desks. If it's elementary, we'll have desks that are going to be spread apart for the social distancing. If it's classrooms that are going to be high school or middle school where they change classes, we're looking at going to possibly a block schedule. The final plan will be determined, of course, by the school board and what's going to be practical, and then what PED is going to approve through this whole process. But moving children around from class to class is not the way to do it, because there's too much crossing over and too hard to do social distancing. So possibly what will happen is the teachers will move classroom to classroom. Students will stay in their classroom. Teachers will move around in the middle school and high school. That's one scenario that we're looking at that we'll have to, as we train, we're going to see what works best, because when you have a school with children in it, and again, we're going to be looking at a 50% capacity no matter what. That's the most you could have in the school, would be 50% of the kids home and 50% of the kids in the school. Okay, so you'll also have to, we can't share drinking fountains. Drinking fountains will be turned off, and students will have to bring their own water bottles and those types of things. There'll be no sharing of play equipment like balls or footballs or anything like that. There'll be no sharing of supplies or no sharing of books. Everything will be their own, and lockers will not be used in the hallways of high schools or middle schools, so they'll have to carry all their stuff in their backpacks because everything is theirs. They're going to keep it on them. HVAC systems. Back playground again. Playgrounds are going to have to be very carefully monitored, and social distancing occur there. That will be like trying to herd cats when you have kids on the playground, and that'll be a difficult thing. Again, there's a lot of talk about how we're going to clean playgrounds if we have to disinfect, but CDC is saying, we can spray the playground equipment, but the ultraviolet is going to be the best. So that's not as big of a deal, but it is if you have a lot of kids playing on the same equipment and taking turns, and they're utilizing the same pieces of equipment one after another. So guidelines for that are trying to figure out what's safe and what's not, and maybe not using playgrounds, just let them run around and outside and things. That's one of the issues they're talking about. It's having playgrounds closed. HVAC systems, air conditioning systems will be turned on. They'll be running most of the day from about 4 or 5 in the morning to maybe 8 or 10 at night every day to keep air movement. CDC and ASHRAE, as well as the Department of Health, are saying the best way to keep this conditions in the environment safe is keeping units on, not turning off. All exhaust fans must be on, all the units be on. That's where we come into the issue of filters. We're looking at possibly filters and things like that are going to be in play, but these old systems can't take a rated 13 air filter. They're going to stay around the 8 or 10s no matter what. Lunchroom guidelines. A lot of places are saying we're not going to serve lunch, but then you have lunch is going to be served in the rooms. Well, it creates lots of trash in the rooms, and it's not really what CDC and what Department of Health is now talking about. Now we're talking using lunchrooms, using all open areas for kids to get lunch, get out, have some fresh air, as well as eating. They can eat in the hallways. They can do things. Trying to minimize the amount of trash and food that's going to be in the room, because then we're going to attract pests and roaches and things like that. Bathroom considerations are going to be limited. Bathrooms, how you're going to, how many kids can go in a bathroom, how big. There'll be occupancy signs for how much can be in a bathroom and the kids, every other stall, those types of things. Again, social distancing, and who's going to monitor that? The high school. We're going to also install many more soap dispensers in classroom, in all bathrooms, because the issue is we're going to train kids how to wash hands even more, do a lot of that. Kids are going to have washing hand times. It'll be a break. They'll all go in, wash their hands doing that. So we'll have a lot more soap dispensers, but that's the best way, is keeping hands washed more so than even hand sanitizer, which will be available.
Hey, John, sorry about interrupting. A real quick question. Are you able to, like, as you're going down, share, highlight your screen that you're dealing with these topics on? Can you see if you can highlight and change them?
Yes.
See if you can highlight to your left.
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So as we go through this, the one of the biggest things, as we talked about, was cleaning supplies and logistics, supplying masks. This is something everybody's trying to come up with in supplies. Cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer for classrooms, common areas, and buses have to be cleaned every day. A lot of times they're trying to think about, do we wipe down the buses between each route? Those types of things. Going to be tough. Each classroom will have a sanitation tote, which will have a tote which will have hand sanitizer, spray disinfectant, and disinfectant wipes for every classroom for their desks, and they'll wipe down the desks as they use them and anything else they use. School staff will, as they find that they're running low, they'll order everything through the obviously through the district warehouse, so they don't run out of supplies. The supply list, basically for COVID related supplies, everybody is, you're looking at the tote, hand sanitizer, masks, no touch thermometer, electrostatic sprayers, which we're using for our specialty crews, foggers, but to be electrostatic, also disinfectant, wipes, soaps, floor markings, lots of signage in English and Spanish, and a lot of PPEs, N95 for masks, for nurses, as well as just gowns and face shields for special ed students that have issues. So we're having a lot of those types of things. Trying to get everything supplied is monumental task. I don't know if Larry's been having a lot of these discussions with school districts, how they're going to do it from PSFA. The cost of this is just astronomical. It's in the millions of dollars that schools are having to spend. And we're spending. Sanitation, we're following. This is what we're looking at the school district, is the procedures. We're following some EPA guidelines and CDC guidance on the products and methods to be used, and what the manufacturers are recommending. A disinfectant and sanitizer for high touch areas will be all day long. We'll have custodians set up to do that on a daily basis and during the day, where kids touch, as well as switches, door handles, all those types of things. Signage will be all around classrooms and schools. Staff will have their facilities will be wiped down at night and disinfected. So again, getting rid of a lot of personal items, those types of things. We have to. Elevators are going to be limited to 2 people on an elevator at a time. The standard custodial operational, we're going to have to high touch clean constantly and through the night. Classrooms will be cleaned daily and disinfected. If you have a positive case, whether it's a child or a staff member or a parent or something like that, and they'll have to do the tracing, but what will happen is we will close the school for for cleaning, high-touch cleaning and fogging, and then it's closed for 2 days after that, and that'll all be virtual learning then. Bathrooms and supplies will be done daily, numerous times during the day. As you can see, this is adding up to be a lot of work, and what, as you know, some of this stuff, some things have to be given up to take care of that we don't normally do on this type of cleaning. But we'll have, every facility has to have isolation rooms. The school, again, will be shut down if there is a positive case, and then reopen 3 days later, 24 hours to clean and sit for 2 days. Students and staff will move to total full remote learning as a contingency planning during any closure. Schools will be sanitized within 24 hours and then 48 hours. Campus access is a big deal, and how that's going to be done with active screening for kids for people to come onto campus. That's a little hard to read right here, but the students won't be allowed in school if they display any type of symptoms. If they are, they will be placed in an isolation room, and a nurse or and their parents will be called, and they'll be taken care of that way. And then parents will come pick up the kids, and then they'll have to do tracing. The tracing is something that has been added to the whole process of this, and there's a lot. And what's happened now is that Department of Health, as of last Friday, the Department of Health is overwhelmed right now through the whole country, but in the state of New Mexico. So tracing and notification of positive cases in schools and any other businesses, hospitals, or anything are now going to be taken over by OSHA. OSHA's now taken over that responsibility as of last week. So they will be doing all the we'll still have to do a lot of the tracing, but it's their responsibility and not the Department of Health. So everything will come into play under the OSHA rules at every business and all the schools. So those are the rules with OSHA change quite a bit on how some of the protocols are going to be rewritten. They're wanting a little bit different set of protocols for all businesses, not just through the Department of Health protocols, but the OSHA protocols included now. So that's going to be an added thing that we're working on now to try to figure out what's going to work and what's not going to work. Transportation drop-off, like I said, all bus drivers are going to be using masks, those kind of things. And they'll have to be checking out all the students before they can get on. It's scary to think that we would leave a student at a bus stop if they not get on a bus. And that's going to be, though, for every school district across the state. If they show symptoms, they can't ride. So we have a police department which will work with the police that will contact parents and arrange for transportation home. But they'll come to the bus stop. I'm not sure how they're going to do that in other places. Classroom guidelines, we went through a little bit. With social distancing, there's 65 square feet per person. So that shows you how many people we're going to be able to have in a classroom. We're going to have occupancy loads at every single classroom based on those numbers. Sanitation of all the classrooms. We remember, it's all about safety, 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 and keeping kids safe, keeping parents safe, and keeping staff safe. Hand sanitizer in every single classroom, in the hallways, as well as bathrooms. Water fountains are off limits, like we talked about. Lunchroom guidelines. We're going to have social distancing, designated seating areas. Outside, inside will be designated for areas for eating also. The cafeteria has to be high-touch sanitized after every group of students that come in to eat. All the typical Department of Health rules will apply also. The meal distribution, signage everywhere. Students have to wash hands before eating, entering the cafeteria, and after eating the cafeteria. Plexiglass barriers are going to be installed to protect staff screening for lunch cards and IDs, as well as in any areas of interaction with students and parents. Playground guidelines. There you have, like we talked about earlier, no sharing of balls or toys or anything for the smaller kids. They cannot bring any toys or balls or anything from home. Students will be required to wash hands before playground and after playground, before lunch and after lunch, at the end of the day and before and after recess. Restroom considerations. All students will have to wash their hands. Now, you can imagine if you're going to have all the students washing their hands, how much time this is going to take. And all this goes in from the issues of the learning time. So as we take more and more time to do this, there's going to be a little bit less learning opportunities for sure. HVAC systems will be on. Actually, that's changed now till about 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Dampers, we're going to bring fresh air outside dampers in as high as 100% if we can. Monthly filter changes, exhaust systems will run throughout the day. Nursing services, all schools have nurse. They are the ones that will be working directly with the Department of Health on any issues that there are, and many kids have medication issues. There are a lot of special ed students that have respiratory area issues. Those are kids that we really need to focus on, and parents need to be very careful on what they decide on how that's going to happen. We will make as much safe areas, isolation rooms as possible, but it's still a school, and these facilities were never designed for that. That's the one thing parents have to remember. And I think, Pat will agree, when we build a school, it's totally different than when we're building nursing services or a hospital or a clinic. And air conditioning systems are totally different. Computer labs will be closed. We're going to take all the equipment out of those and give them to the students. Sorry, needed to drink there. We're going to be working on a one-to-one device, one device per student. They'll take all their devices with them, carry them with them. They will not share computers, will not share any devices. All students have their own devices. They'll bring those, or we will issue them a device, a Chromebook or something for every student, because we want that learning will be, they'll use those devices in school as well as when they're at home, when they're doing virtual learning. Libraries will be used as general ed, because one of the things is as we do social distancing, we're going to be using all these other facilities as classrooms also. Libraries, PE rooms, all those things will be used as general educational classrooms, because we're going to be running what we hope to be one plan to go 50-50. 50% of students will be home, 50% of students will be in school. Then the following week, it'll flip. It'll be like A through M will be week 1, M through Z will be the other week. And it's really surprising how almost across the district that works 50-50. It's strange how that works with the letters, but it does, to where some of it's like 45 to 55, 48, 52, but it's all the same in percentages. So that it'll go by letters if the plan is approved. Athletics, we're going by NMAA rules and what they can do. There's no competition. They've all been canceled this time, but they can do conditioning. But they can only do one. It's still one coach or one staff member per 5 students, ratio 1-5. Gymnasiums will be limited use. There'll be no competition at all. If they are playing with the ball, everybody has to have a ball. It's all conditioning and skill sets. So they can't have any one-on-one play or anything like that. Locker rooms and weight rooms are closed. They won't be used. Athletic equipment will be limited, what they can use, and it will be sterilized and sanitized before and after practices. Police department, we're still they're working with us on how this, but we're required. We found out Monday that we're going to be still required by the fire department, everybody, to run fire drills as well as ALICE training and active shooter training. So you can imagine trying to do fire drills with social distancing. That won't be real. It won't be timed, that's for sure. It's just training how to do it and what we're going to do at this time. Shelter-in-place procedures will continue, and that'll work with we're working with the police department on how that's going to happen, because in shelter-in-place, when they're serving a search warrant, schools go into a shelter-in-place if it's around the school that they're doing that. And just the whole idea of the reopening of the schools, it's the strategies that we're looking at for the safety of everything. So that's the side of it from the physical plant opening. The academic side is a whole nother story, as you all know. So at this point, I'm open to any questions.
Yeah, and so let me and thank you, John. We have about 15 to 20 minutes for comments and questions. There's a few that came in during your presentation, John, in the chat room, and so I can share those with you, and it may be on some of the other folks' mind that are participating. But one of the things that Larry weighed in on, Larry Tollison with PSFA, he said a potential issue is to consider the parents that may be at schools in opposition to going back to the school, which would need additional law enforcement. So Larry can kind of comment on, you can chime in as well, Larry, you can unmute yourself, but that was something that was brought up by Larry. Larry, you kind of want to share with the group what your thoughts were on that?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Pat. John, just a quick question regarding that. We're tracking nationwide, some school districts, New York City, are really upping the ante on police availability in schools because of the potential for, parents to show up saying we shouldn't be returning back to school, potential riots or aggressive activity. You guys thought about that yet, or APS police thought about that?
Yes, one of the things is exactly that. Is some people are concerned and worried. We are doing a lot with our CSAs, training with our CSAs and police because of what you're seeing across the nation. One of the things about our police department with the APS police department different is that all of our police, the main thing for us is to de-escalate anything. We don't do arresting, we don't do that type of thing. And that's the training that a lot of the across the nation, they're trying to get the police to do more of that type of training. We do, they do several days and reissue of de-escalation, working out, talking to parents, doing that. But you still have those little the tension there. So we're trying to minimize any of that by utilizing our CSAs, our campus security people, and as well as social workers and counselors to work with, to be at the schools where we may have some of that conflict, and work with the parents from a counselor point of view and principal's point of view, so they can talk it out and figure out what may happen.
Well, John, just one more comment. My friend, this is outstanding. I really appreciate you sharing this information. You've really thought this out from a really strategic effort. And again, I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. This is not done. One of the things I do want to say that as we're planning, we've put together a number of committees to work the reopening of the school, from academics to the physical part. But we've included, we've had my teams, the teams that I was heading up. We've had 6 principals, we've had 6 teachers, We've had experts on all these areas, whether it's athletics, the custodial, cleaning, computer. We've had IT. We've had the police. We've had food services. All these different people have been part of this planning for the last number. We've met for hours and hours on Zoom, going through a lot of this and working out item by item and how it can be done. So it's been done. It's been out there with a lot of parents. We've had some parents on the committee also to where they're sharing. And one of the things that's most important is if people are not comfortable, they need to do what's right, what they feel is right from them. We're going to make schools as safe as possible and do the right thing that we feel. But ultimately, it's up to parent what they feel they need to do. But there will be quality education, whether it's online or whether going to be in the classroom for our kids, and we really need to work with that. One of the problems, the biggest thing about the online challenges we have is conductivity across the city, and it's not just in areas that people feel are the haves and the have-nots. I mean, if you look at the east side of the mountains, we have very poor conductivity. There's not, and you've got San Pedro State, you have all these, it's not definitely an area of poverty, but yet they don't have good conductivity. So we have the challenge of those people trying to get online. So they may feel those people. So it's not just the haves and have-nots not being able to get on. It's across the city. The west side, a lot of issues. Over in the south side, we have a lot of issues of people having quality conductivity. When they're trying to do, if you watch something, it's something, but when you're streaming, it takes a lot more power, it takes a lot more bandwidth. We're trying to figure out how we can do that, where each kid gets what's what they need to be able to get something out of their education and have a quality education online. We're trying to do
Yeah, I said no. Those are all great points, John, and to echo what Larry's saying, I think you guys have constructively taken a proactive approach to looking at resolving those operational issues. I mean, it is well thought out, and it seems like you guys have done a tremendous job of putting a lot of detail in your thought process and understanding how to resolve the issues. That's really important. Rebecca Rodriguez chimed in. She had a question. She said, what will be the reporting process for positive cases from your standpoint, or from the APS school district standpoint, and how would they mandate the compliance?
Well, first of all, on any positive cases, it's got to come through the Department of Health and now OSHA. They're the only ones who can say that it's a positive case. We can hear it from parents, we can hear it from doctors or whatever, but the only way official notice comes from Department of Health and OSHA, which will work with our nursing services. We have a contact person, Judith Edwards, who's the head nurse in charge of nursing services for the district. She works directly with the Department of Health and now OSHA. They will contact, we have a flow chart once somebody is positive, if they find out, because there's questions they ask where the kid goes to school, where they work, wherever it is. If they get that positive case, we're notified immediately, which then we have a flow chart which will identify what school it is. Now, understand, under the HEPA laws, you cannot disclose who it is or what, or who, whether it's a custodial or whether it's a teacher or whether it's an aide or whoever, but it'll just be known as a positive, and then the tracing begins. Parents will be notified just like they are. There'll be a note sent, but all parents that are registered at that school are given through their messenger service that there was a positive. We would, we would close the school immediately after that positive. and then the school would be totally cleaned and fogged and disinfected. And then the 2 days later, the school would open after that first initial 24, and then it'll go back to opening. But there's a caveat there because it depends on how that tracing happens. If it was a teacher and there was a lot, then they would go through the tracing process. The OSHA will, working with Department of Health, and if we have to keep closed longer, the school itself would open, but it may not. We may not open it with students or whatever, because it depends on the tracing or how that happens, because they would go through and testing the parents or the teacher or anybody else that was in contact. So there's a process that we're at the beck and call of OSHA and Department of Health, but everybody would be notified.
So when does the clock start? So does the clock start when a parent says we got positive test results back, or when OSHA has the time to call? Because I imagine there's a gap between when a parent knows or anybody finds out their test results to when OSHA has the opportunity to make that notification.
Well, again, officially it can only be by law. Only Department of Health or the OSHA can make that call to say there was a positive. We're going to listen to what a parent has if they get something from the Department of Health in writing, because they'll get like an email or whatever. And we would get a response as far as physically, but we still have to. We can't make an announcement or anything until we get something from Department of Health, because they're the ones who can make that announcement.
Okay. Okay, so you would start that 2-day process at the time you had confirmation, but you wouldn't notify. Okay.
Right. Absolutely.
Great. And so we have a few more minutes. If you have questions, please feel free to chime in. We have about another 5 minutes for further questions. Any questions? I have one. And John, I don't know how detailed you guys have looked into this, but it has come up in my circle several times. In terms of HVAC systems and ventilation, and when you start talking about droplets and nuclei for your filtration systems, specifically for the HVAC systems, when you're comparing swamp coolers versus DC cooling units, do you know where you guys are with, obtaining filters, taking a look at your systems and assessing them and coming up with ideas on how to remedy the spread based off of it going through the HVAC system?
Well, yeah, they've been working on this all summer since we've been out and trying to evaluate what they can do and what they can't do with some systems. As older systems are very difficult to work with some type of filtration. So we've done like putting filters at the registers, on the inside of the registers, where we able to filter a lot of that, because as we pull in outside air, we're going to have, for fresh air, we're still going to bring in allergens and things like that and the problems that are causing allergies that will give some kids the symptoms that will mimic COVID also. So we definitely, and everybody has allergies too. So that's one of the considerations of trying to figure out. And one of the problems you have when you bring in fresh air, so much fresh air too.
Right.
And so
right.
A lot of filtration, trying to see which units will work better with a 13 rated filter instead of an 8, if they can handle it without burning out motors. Trying to keep windows open, going through the district and reopening a lot of windows that have been either painted shut or don't open anymore. We're working on having those areas fixed to where they can be open, to people can get fresh air. It's really about, and ASHRAE has been pushing really hard on, at this point, the minimum is get air moving, having lots of air movement all the time. that won't be too hard for us during this time. It's much harder during the winter time because then those types of systems are shut down. If you have a hot water heat or steam boilers and those types of things, we don't have air movement. And so that makes it a little bit tougher. So we're going to be looking at installing exhaust fans or doing other types of things where we have air moving. If we have to put in some places, we've actually put ceiling fans in to just get air movement and trying to bring in fresh air. It's a challenge that we're guessing at some of the stuff. It's a calculated guess, but it's still a guess because nobody's been in this type of situation. And I don't know how Larry's dealing with some of the school districts, the smaller school districts, on this type of stuff, Larry. If you guys are looking at it, what are you seeing, Larry?
And that's an excellent question. And one of my comment, the chat, you see some students really stepping up to the plate and doing something about it, improving cleaning protocols, really taking a hard look at how important it is to change filters according to manufacturer recommendations, which, man, a lot of them don't. Definitely is a challenge. I think everything that you talked about today, many of our smaller school districts especially are struggling with the supplies, additional cleaning products. That's very, very challenging. And one thing I wanted to ask you was, did you get a budget reduction this year, this fiscal year?
Say that again. I did. You broke up.
Did you get a budget reduction?
Well, yes, we did. That's one of the things throughout the district. We received about 11% budget reduction.
Wow.
And
that's painful. It's painful, especially during a pandemic.
And all school districts are receiving, are looking at a budget cut, and they're even looking at possibly more budget cuts and throughout a lot of places. You minimize what happens is the rule is you minimize the classroom budget cuts, but everything else then, when you have about approximately 82 to 88% of your school budget goes in the classroom, that doesn't leave a lot for everything else.
Right, great point. Tracy G chimed in, John, what is the plan to replace potential teacher? We have a teacher shortage is what she's saying. In the news, they reported this morning that teachers have expressed concerns with safety coming back to the classroom. I know that's on the academic side, but can you chime in on that for us? Yes,
we're addressing that. I mean, APS always has a number of teachers retiring because we have so many of them. But we have about 500 to 600 teachers retire a year, and rehiring new teachers. But this year is going to be even more because you have a lot of people retire that weren't planning on it because they don't want to return. They're worried about their safety. A lot of those will be able to be accommodated by being the teachers to do virtual teaching, but that's going to require a lot of professional development. Teachers just can't get online and do a Zoom teaching. There's a lot of training that needs to happen to where where they can make an impact and make it worthwhile. So we're addressing it that way. We're also trying to figure out what teachers in this related COVID time of 50-50, 50%, 50% on, we're going to need a lot of teachers. The district deals with this shortage all the time. Matter of fact, the state is dealing with the teacher shortage right now and across the country because people are thinking they don't risk it. So it's an ongoing issue. We're addressing some of it, but it's going to continue as a shortage. Especially hard ones like special ed. Right. Great point, John. And thanks for sharing that. We have about 2 more minutes. I want to return at least 5 minutes back to your working day. It is 9:23 now.
Deborah Chavez chimed in. She said, she just commented and she said she's always amazed by the thought process of planning with you, John, and APS school district initiatives. They are dedicated to the students 110%. Thank you for your hard work and dedication, not only during this pandemic, but always. So great. Deborah, thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate that. I'm sure John really appreciates that. Any questions or concerns from there? Let
me make one comment. We're going to present tonight the plan to the school board. So the school board will receive the plan tonight. We'll announce the final plan. It'll go to the school board for approval or modification or rejection, and then it goes to PED for their final, and that'll be submitted to PED today. So we'll know in the next, pretty much a direction of how we're going if schools open and when they're going to open. There'll be a delay somewhere. We realize that, but we'll see what happens, what the final word is from PED and the school board on how Albuquerque Public Schools will open. And other school districts will take that lead also on because PED will push that across the entire state most likely. Don't you say, Larry?
No, you're spot on, John. It's important to share that information, and that's we're seeing across the state. This has got to be a team effort. I mean, everybody jumping in the water, getting wet to determine solutions to how we can keep not only our kids safe, but our teachers safe.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for the 10 o'clock news, right? I mean,
that's right.
We probably will hear something later on this evening. John, I want to express our gratitude for you during this presentation today. Very, very eye-opening. A couple of departing things here. Within the chat room, I've posted both John and I's email. Please feel free, as you're thinking more about the topic throughout the week. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us directly. Also, the presentation has been recorded. We will post the presentation on our website through our webmaster, Roy Evans, and as well as the slides. John, if you can get the slides to Roy as well, so he can post them as well. I say this, in dealing with this intensely over the last 6 months, there's a question that, if you ask yourself, it's always better to bring up in the group. There's not a dumb question about this. This is osmosis. It is constantly moving. And like John pointed out in his presentation several times, we haven't wrote the book on this. So we're all kind of going through this together, and we need to look at ourselves as a part of this, of the solution. And so any question asked is a great question, because, we don't have the answers, and nor should we pretend like we do. It is our job as this, as a community to try to find those answers and work together to do so expeditiously. And so I would like to thank everybody for participating. Again, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to email us. You can email John at Dufay, D-U-F-A-Y, @aps.edu. You can email me at Patrick, Patrick.Dyer @pmsnm.org at any time, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Again, the presentation will be posted along with this recording of this meeting. So I would like to give you guys back an important 2 minutes of your day. It is now 9:28. Join us for our next month's meeting, which will talk about elevators and how to take care of our elevators and properly do that. We'll appreciate you guys joining. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank
Everyone be safe.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
meeting. Good job, John.
Good job, John.
Good job, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a great day, guys.